Well, welcome everyone to our new online executive forum on seamless cross-border commerce today. And as most of you know, this is a joint endeavor. We're organizing this Postal Innovation Platform together with Swiss Post. It's a series of webinars we have started earlier this year, and we're going to continue. So a little bit later at the end of the meeting, I'll tell you also a little bit about the upcoming events. My name is Bernhard Buckers. I'm the chairman of the Postal Innovation Platform, and I will moderate today's webinar. At the beginning, just a few organizational things. As always, please keep your microphone on mute, unless you speak, of course, and you should speak if possible. You can join, ask questions during Q&A. So after each presentation, there's the possibility to ask questions. We'll also have a discussion at the end, and please feel free to join that one as well. If you don't want to speak up, there's also the possibility you'll see at the bottom right of your screen. Normally it is there. You can find a chat box, and if you have any questions that you want to ask, but you don't want to ask it yourself and prefer to write it down, please do so. We'll try to pick it up and ask it during the discussion if there is enough time. Let me now quickly introduce the speakers to you that we have today. We have Patrick Walsh. He's from Swiss Post and Essendia, and he'll talk about the dynamic returns management of Essendia. We'll then have Paul Donahoe of UPU, and he'll talk about UPU's new e-commerce guide, and as well as about some tools to help postal operators to grow e-commerce. And then we have Chad Schofield of Bugsy. He'll talk how to deliver locally around the world. So I think it's going to be really a very interesting webinar that we are going to have here today, because we have here really different angles, from very practical ones to the global implementation of different tools and to some very concrete solutions. So again, please try to get engaged in that. I think I said enough at that point actually, and I'd like to hand over to our first speaker. Patrick, are you there?
I'm here. I hope you can hear me clearly and loud.
I can hear you clearly and loud. Please, the floor is yours. You can share your screen, the presentation, and get started. Please.
Okay. Yeah, I hope. Can you see my presentation yet?
No, I can't see it.
Okay.
If there is a problem with sharing your presentation, I have a backup here. So if it doesn't work, I can do it from my end.
I will try again. Can you see now?
Something starting here, so it looks promising.
Is it also a PPT?
It just said Patrick Wolf is starting to share content on my screen, so too early to say. But no, I see my slide here again. So something didn't work out, I guess. Give me a second here. So I can share it from my end. I just click when you tell me. So please don't worry, don't bother. I will do it for you. Okay.
Okay, I will start it this way. Well, maybe just a very short background for my person and the project I'm involved in. I started 3.5 years ago at Essendia, coping with an import project. So I'm responsible to develop our high value import product, Mailbox Plus. which is a B2B product. So we offer it merchants in order to deliver pre-cleared products into Switzerland, which is very important because obviously Switzerland has a border to all countries, and you need those clearance processes in order to scale as a merchant. Unfortunately, next slide, please. Unfortunately, import is easy, at least mostly, but then it can get bitter, right? Because returns is something every merchant has to cope with. And especially in Switzerland, because you have not only the border in the import, you have it also when you need to return your goods back into your warehouses. So next slide, please. So therefore, you are confronted with several challenges. There could be very high costs, especially in Switzerland, because of manual processes. It's complex and individual. When you want to fulfill the wishes of several merchants, which have individual standard operation procedures for their returns. When you don't have the right reporting system, you can only refund very late to your customers. Import duties might get lost, which is, especially in the fashion sector, very expensive. And also your capital is bound because your goods are a long time away from your warehouse. You cannot resell it until it is back to your warehouse. And you have high expenses in your customer service because of complicated processes also for your Swiss customers. And they will call you, and this is always not cost efficient. Next slide, please. So why is that actually the case? Why is it so difficult? Next slide, please. There are several reasons, right? Because your customers, they have just different processes. Customer A wants you to check a form. Customer B wants you to check the batteries. Customer C wants you to check missing buttons and stuff. Next slide, please. The report frequency might be different from customer to customer. So customer A wants it daily, B weekly, and C monthly. Next slide, please. The informations your customers, the merchants want might be different. So customer A might be require that you fill 4 columns. Customer C wants 6 columns with different informations, and customer C wants maybe 10 columns because you need to mention the reason why the articles have been returned. There might be also consolidation changes. Customer A wants you to consolidate 2 days in your warehouse in Switzerland, customer B 1 week, and another customer maybe 1 or 2 months. So all this, next slide, please. All this ends up in a highly complex environment when it comes to returns in Switzerland. And finally, where most return handling agents, or also we got the feedback from other postal companies and other carriers which try to do returns management, it ends up in an Excel nightmare. So we experienced it by ourselves. So for some customers which told us, very big customers, key accounts, which told us, hey guys, you can only do for us last mile delivery and first mile delivery in Switzerland, when you can offer us also returns management, and you handle for us the export clearance and the duty drawback and so on and so forth. And we said, okay, we want this customer, so we will build something for them. But what we really experienced is this picture here. It was very complicated, a lot of manual work, emailing back and forth, and it was actually not profitable for us. And there is also, by the way, a lot of administrative manual workload involved for the merchants when you proceed like that. Next slide, please. So actually, the solution looks like that. Next slide, please. What we offer is the returns management approach above, the green one. So the Swiss customers send their items in our local return centers in Switzerland. We have one in Zurich and one in Geneva. We handle the items there, consolidate them, and after the defined returns frequency, we send it back to the merchant. Still, a lot of merchants, even very big ones, they belong to the top 10 of German merchants. They do the returns management below. They ask the Swiss customers to ship back the goods directly into their warehouse, which means they actually confront their Swiss customers with an export process. They need to fill out this CN22. And it is related to very high cost because the B2C shipping rates from Switzerland abroad, especially when you have bigger items, are very expensive. Next slide, please. So how does the local returns management work? Next slide, please. Yeah, as mentioned before, the Swiss customer brings it to one of our offices, sends it to us, we consolidate it, we do all the processing, the reporting, and ship it back into the EU. Next slide, please. But what we developed right now is we developed a tool which makes it much more efficient for us. So actually, we connect the import data of the goods with the returns label. Means we can scan the returns label, and then we actually see the data of the import. So what has been ordered in the import. And we can offer three different options. We can offer a content check, means we open every parcel in order to look what has actually been returned. We do no content check because there was only one article in the import and we know what is in there, or at least we assume, or we do a mix of that. And based on the data we gather there, we create various reportings automatically. So nobody will create an Excel sheet, manipulate it manually, and then send it by email. It is all done automatically by the tool. Next slide, please. What is cool about the tool is, and that's where actually the name comes from, it's dynamic. Means this is the operation interface you see right here. Actually, it's version 1. We are currently developing version 2, which gets in operation next week. And what you see is we can actually adapt this operational interface according to the individual needs of each merchant. So one merchant might ask us, hey, please check the buttons on our shirt. So we create a field where we can put where we can put a number, how many buttons are missing on the shirt, or they can ask us to check the glasses of expensive sunglasses, so we can create a field for that as well. What many merchants ask us is they put a physical returns form in the import parcels, and they ask their customers to fill out this returns form when they ship back stuff. And the merchants want us to gather those informations on those physical returns forms and report it with our tool. Because, as mentioned before, most of the times we consolidate the items, means they are bound in our warehouse, but for sure the merchants want the information daily, what has been returned actually and what was the reason for the return, because then they can react very fast with the refunding, actually the day after their customers sent back the returns. And they can also create new shipments. For example, when the Swiss customer mentioned, "Hey, I like this article, but unfortunately it was too small or too big. Please send it in another size." So this is something we can gather here in those reportings. And those interfaces might really look different for every single customer, for small ones, for mid-sized ones, for big ones. So we adapted. That's the dynamic part. Next slide, please. Actually, one very important point when it comes to our internal costs and workloads is, as mentioned before, is the different reportings. Because when you want to ship back the goods to the merchant warehouse in Germany, for example, you need to provide a pro forma invoice for the export. And this has to be created according to the actual goods which get returned. So our tool will gather all the informations in the data bank. So we just need to press a button and we get the perfect pro forma invoice. The same is true for the duty drawback. So especially for fashion merchants, it's highly attractive to retrieve the duties which have been paid in the import. In order to realize that, you need a certain report, and we can create it as well automatically. And also the other reports mentioned before, the refunding report, the daily report, and so on and so forth, are done by the tool. Next slide, please. Yeah, the nice thing here is, and this is actually also our slogan, everything from one source, means when the merchant is using our import product, Mailbox Plus, we already get all the data via API for the customs clearance, for the import clearance. And those data are exactly the same data we need for the returns management. So actually there's no need for various interfaces, for various APIs. It's only one connection, one integration, and they have really the full loop into Switzerland and also back with the minimum amount of administrative workload for them in the onboarding, but as well in the operation. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I think that these are all the slides that you sent.
Okay, yeah, I was just in the flow, so actually there's also nothing more to say excepting some marketing pitches, but the technical part is complete, and I guess I also need to stop time-wise.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. Let me ask you a quick question. To which destinations do you offer this service currently?
Well, actually, there is no limitation. We get imports from the US, from Germany, from Spain, from Italy. So there is no limitation.
Okay, so it's from your point of view, it's a global, for Swiss Post, Ascendia, it's a global application. It can cover the goods coming from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyway, we'll come back to that during the discussion as well. Thank you very much, Patrick. It was really highly interesting to see what you have developed here with the Mailbox Plus. Paul, you're there.
Hi, Bernard. Yes, I am.
Perfect. Well, the floor is yours. Please share with us your views and what UPU is doing, which tools UPU is providing for postal operators to get strong in e-commerce. Please, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Bernard. Everybody, thank you to Bernard, the Postal Innovation Platform, and Swisspost for organising the session today and inviting me to give you an insight into some of the UPU tools for seamless cross-border e-commerce. For those of you who don't know me, my name I'm the manager of Postal. I've been studying e-commerce obviously for a number of years at the UPU, as it's a very important enabler of growth of the postal sector. And even more so during this COVID time, where the post has been deemed an essential service by governments and policymakers to support the stopping the spread and treating this also as meeting needs. You're all very familiar with the role that the post plays in those areas, but also to support business resilience, supporting the inclusion of small and medium enterprises by developing capabilities for services to support them, and also the digital transformation of the value chain, which has been very important during these COVID times. We're all doing digitally today, so this has really pushed forward the program of the UPU in a number of areas. What I want to talk about today is a publication that we launched this year. This is the UPU E-Commerce Guide. It gives an insight into the key elements that posts can contribute to the development of cross-border e-commerce, but also national e-commerce, and the critical role that the post can play. And this guide is the third edition actually of the guide. It's evolved over a number of years, and it's intended for policymakers, for postal executives and partners of the industry and development agencies to understand what is the capability of the post and how partnering with the post can actually help bring growth to the e-commerce marketplace. So the key elements that we cover in the guide are some e-commerce and the sustainable development goals, very important for governments to understand that the role of post and e-commerce can play in achieving sustainable development goals, reducing poverty, creating access for women to the economy. We also look into e-commerce trends and drivers within the guide and key elements for the post, which I'll go into later in the presentation. We've also done some research on the main drivers and challenges for post to enter the e-commerce market. And then finally, the guide gives an overview of some tools that the UPU has, which can help assist posts in taking this e-commerce journey themselves. I mentioned we've done some research with the challenges for the growth of e-commerce services. And this is from a national as well as a cross-border perspective. It's common in many regions for insufficient resources to be available for the development of e-commerce, and also that there is an internal transition towards a digital culture, which webinars, for example, are very important to help educate executives and others within the post about this transition towards a digital culture. We're a very traditional industry, but the future of our industry is in this transition, in this transformation. The traditional lack of internal skills and IT can be a disturbance. So we saw cross-border clearance and customs issues to be some of the big challenges, and this has led to a number of the tools that the UPU has made available over the years and which are consolidated in this e-commerce guide. When we look at e-commerce at the UPU, we look at it from a three-dimensional. We have a very good presentation on the returns system from Patrick from Swisspost, and the physical is obviously the foundation. If the post is not well grounded with a national and an integrated international physical delivery, returns of goods, and warehousing performance system, then the role of e-commerce is limited. But there are actual opportunities in the value chain towards the digital area and looking at how e-commerce portals and relationship with social media can be an important enabler of the growth of e-commerce, and there is a role for the post to play in both of those spaces. And then also in the payment space, in different parts of the world, this is evident, where there are gateways that posts are either facilitating or participating in or hosting that cover all sorts of different payment options. Payments is one of the key barriers for the consumers in many countries to get into e-commerce. And so the post in these three spaces can have a very important driver of business growth and an important driver of the e-commerce market in their countries. And the e-commerce guide, looks at all of these three elements within the postal e-commerce ecosystem and explores the different components of these elements. It also looks at e-commerce strategies and business models. And we talk about different types of strategies for post to enter e-commerce, national support for national marketplaces, national delivery and logistics, but also international cross-border integration with platforms, online platforms, return systems. There's subscription systems, omni-logistics channels, cross-channel fulfillment. Partnership models are very important. So the e-commerce guide explores some of these and hopefully create some trigger points for people to think about the e-commerce strategies and business models that they're using and developing. We see within our research, again, the top 5 postal e-commerce services on a global scale. We see a big push for the online postal e-commerce marketplaces as being a particular driver. Online customs declaration, paperless customs and paperless trade, a very important focus of the UPU. And we have a lot of work and tools that we're working in that area on. Integration of postal web services with e-commerce merchant sites. And having agent is important for seamless cross-border e-commerce. If your partners are not able to connect to you effectively, not able to connect to the postal network, then that's a big barrier. Online customer contact and customer service is fundamental, and then online sale of philatelic postal products. So there's a lot of activity in the postal sector around. Let's now come finally to the UPU tools that are explained in the guide as well. We have a number of capacity building and technical assistance projects that we offer at the UPU to all of the UPU members. We've, as I mentioned, cover physical services, digital services, and financial services. We have the ORE project, which many of you would be familiar with, is active in most of the UPU countries. The digital readiness for e-commerce and payments readiness for e-commerce technical assistance work is explained in the guide. And we go into explaining what are the different components of these technical assistance work with the operational readiness for e-commerce. It's about making available IT systems for paperless cross-border e-commerce. For the payments, it's about creating policy frameworks and strategies for development of payment capabilities and looking at how we at the UPU can support seamless cross-border payments. And then we're looking at how to link the digital capability of the post with national strategies, encouraging digital strategies to be developed, and then working on the deployment of digital solutions to help in that digital transformation. The basic fundamental of all of these technical assistance projects is actually the transformation, and they really all come together in that. And then finally, we have, some of you may be aware, our .post project, which is linking all of those together in a global project. So hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into the UPU, our work in e-commerce, and our focus on seamless cross-border cross-border e-commerce, which can be found on the Upu E-Commerce site, which you can find on our Upu website. Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Paul. Listen, you have explained what Upu is doing in all of these different areas. Could you also provide one or two examples to make it a little bit more concrete to see how can you help a postal operator to implement some of those services that you have talked about?
Yes, in terms of our concrete activities, then, as I mentioned, in our ORE project, we're active in most of the countries of the UPU, providing on-the-field support for improving their cross-border processes. In terms of the digital space, then we see we've been working with launched recently during COVID times. They've recently launched an e-commerce platform which is supporting their small and medium enterprises. It's called Yellow, and they launched that last month. They have already over 350 SMEs who have been authorised to load their products on their platform, and they are now selling those products. They have sold thousands of products already. And so there's a concrete impact that can be made by posts adopting e-commerce platforms, launching them to support SMEs, helping the local SMEs and helping the development of the economy and keeping businesses going during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. May I ask a question here?
Please, Patrick.
So just to understand you right, Paul, this project in Costa Rica means the local postal organization created some kind of a marketplace in order to facilitate e-commerce for the local merchants.
Yes, correct. An SME supporting delivery program called SME Express or PYME Express. And then they have added this e-commerce platform to help small and medium enterprises and to build more volume in their delivery network.
Also internationally or only domestically?
It's also looking at the more international. It's an intra-regional project because of the language issue.
Okay. Could you maybe share the website in the chat of this platform?
Yes, yeah, happy to.
Thanks a lot.
You got your answer, and Paul, if you can share it in the chat, or if you can't share it in the chat, just send it to me. I'll send a follow-up email after the event anyway to everybody who participated, and I also can include there, of course, if you're interested. I've received questions also concerning the publication or the sharing of the presentation in general. We go even a little bit further than that. Some of you know it already probably, but what we are going to do, and also the link of that we are going to share with everybody, we are publishing the webinar itself on YouTube after the event so that everybody can easily refer to the video on YouTube and go through the presentations again and listen to the presentations again. So just as information as well, everybody will have access to the full content of the webinar. Okay, I suggest we go to our next speaker before we come to the final discussion. Jet, are you there and are you connected?
Yes, I'm here.
That is perfect. So please share your screen, and we look forward to listen to your presentation and to see how to deliver locally around the world.
Okay, let's see.
Please.
Is that working? Hang on just a second.
Yeah, do you want me to share?
I can share here. Give me one more.
Okay. Okay, we see. Yeah, we can see the slide. Perfect.
Very good. Let me. I'm Chad Schofield, co-founder of Box C. I'm Chief Digital Officer. Basically, this is about, a discussion about how to deliver locally around the world. And that concept is effectively when the consumer or customer receives it in their destination country, everything about the delivery, the package is a local experience. And that improves basically customer service and all those sorts of things. One thing, how when we created the company and where we started technology, we looked at, the problem was traditional post is it wasn't really built for e-commerce from the beginning. So it's just been improvements and building on that. And we just basically took the technology and rebuilt from the ground up how we can make cross-border international shipping, basically purely for e-commerce. We don't try to be, do anything else, just purely e-commerce. And part of that is to make the processes very similar to domestic shipment for the merchant or shippers shipping their product. There's as least complicated as possible, as standardized as possible across any country that they're shipping to. And how we kind of, we look at this as a localized, and really what we try to achieve is that no matter even if a merchant's located in London, he can deliver into the U.S. as if he was had a warehouse in the U.S. or was doing business in the U.S. or many other countries. So the line haul is direct to the destination country. We use commercial customs clearance and then inject in the last mile network. This is almost always the local postal carrier in that country. Sometimes some merchants may request more of a courier product, or there may be some local delivery services in certain areas. Our system's built to accommodate any last mile carrier in any country. It's also built for the line haul to be air freight, trucking, train, ocean. It doesn't really matter. We're systems completely agnostic to that. Once the shipment's cleared in the country, it completely becomes a domestic shipment. So the label is local. Everything when the customer receives it in the destination country, there's no duties or taxes owed. There's nothing really about the package or that indicates that it came from another country, other than the fact that the tracking, they would know where it came from. And with that, it's basically focused to be a great experience for the merchant's customer. To achieve that, as we looked at, what are the requirements? What do you basically have to do to make this happen? And first of all, it needs to be competitively priced. It can't be cost too expensive that it can't be, it's not worthwhile delivering, shipping somewhere. Really, most of the time, we're more if you put these pieces together, what we call building the roots, it's typically almost always cheaper than express courier shipments pricing. Then, and it's very competitive with about any other service. To have that customer experience, the taxes and duties need to be prepaid. I mean, we offer, either DDU or DDP, but to have a truly local experience for a merchant's customer, the taxes and duties need to be paid. We need to calculate those taxes and duties quickly at the same time the shipping charges is done, to keep it simple and no complications for the merchants. Tracking, everyone expects full tracking in this day and age. So we provide that from the origin all the way to the destination, to the recipient's door. We also build in basic global address verification. It's hard to do it in real time for every address in the world. It can be done, but what we found is we make sure that postal codes, cities, provinces, or countries all match up, and it moves very quickly. If that's not the case, then it gets put in exception. But that's to make sure the delivery is has a good chance of getting delivered. Every country we deliver to has a local return address. So if it's shipped to Australia, it will be returned to an address in Australia, rather than back to the origin country. The goal is to provide multiple transit times. Sometimes cost is more important than time. So basically with our system, you can move it slower and have it cheaper, or move it faster and have it and be more expensive. And then the last here is, weights are over 2 kilograms. We allow, with this, we can ship, even though it goes a postal last mile carrier, it can, go over 2 kilograms. Someone can ship a 5 kilogram package to Canada without any issues whatsoever. And probably the things that taxes and duties is probably a big complication. I think most merchants are intimidated by that. And so, as I said before, the local experience depends on those taxes and duties being prepaid. And it's the same for the shipper. We make it where we calculate the taxes and duties in real time at the same time as shipping charges are made. That way, it's very clear and it's done right off the bat when the shipping label's created. And then the tracking is probably the second most important thing. And those points of requirements as well kind of apply to this situation. With undeliverables, with a local address, it makes it easy we check those in, and the merchant or shipper can check what is undeliverable, and then quickly change delivery address to reship it to the customer in case there was some sort of issue, just with the address, or they moved, or whatever might happen. And at that point, we also just consolidate all those undeliverable shipments, and they can be consolidated and shipped back to the merchant and their warehouse, their main warehouse, to be put back into inventory. This is really our platform, how it works. We're built on APIs purely. It's anything that we have a part of our interface is available. Anyone else could build their own interface that is exactly like ours. There's nothing, it's all open, so anyone can access the endpoints of all our APIs. The main part of it is just one integration, one API, and you're ready to go, ready to ship to multiple countries around the world, which includes the line haul, the customs clearance, and the last mile delivery, and all those pieces in between, all the handling, all that sort of thing. We also can, if a shipper wants to do their own line haul, we can accommodate that as well, and we just provide the customs clearance and last mile. Some of our customers have the line haul and the last mile rates to certain countries. We can accommodate that as well, and usually in that case, they will use some of our routes, as we call them, in trade lanes that are already set up, that they don't have set up for. They use that. They use their own for others that they are, familiar with, or they have their own. And that way, it creates a network where everyone that uses the network can use each, different trade lanes that they may or may not have expertise in already, which kind of taps into the global infrastructure. You instantly have access to, when you're integrated, it's all set up and ready to go. Compliance, we built that in, as well as the taxes and duties. We also are adding in, a screening using artificial intelligence for prohibited and regulated goods, and as well as denied parties. So in those areas, there's a score given of, whether this, for example, with a denied party, the score could be a certain amount. That means there's very low risk that there's a denied party, or, there's a score given that's very high risk that it's a denied party, and that goes into exception, and you can check that. Then that can be manually checked and confirmed whether it is the denied party or whether it's not, and to decide whether let the print the label or not. And all of this is done with no upfront cost. It's basically built on, you pay for the shipping labels and, or any transaction costs, and that's the only cost involved. And that's really kind of wraps it up. And I'm going to leave this up here for a minute, but that's really just kind of about who we are and how we work. We're basically have trade lanes in the 50 countries, and we're adding to that all the time. Technology is also in a position where if doesn't need a lot of demand, and it can be launched in about any country as an origin, to a country where there's somewhat, some significant demand, not huge. We kind of use a thumb, about 100 kilograms per consolidated shipment to a country is enough to make it feasible for us to set up that trade lane. So we're working with some emerging markets around the world as far as origins, and being able to ship cost effectively and seamlessly into Europe or North America. So it's pretty. That's probably one of the dynamic parts of our technology, the ability to ship between about any two countries as long as there's demand for that. And I'll end it with there and take questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chad. We have received some questions, and two questions here that I see refer to the new EU regulations, the de minimis regulations on imports into the EU. And maybe Chad and Paul, you both have views on that concerning customers, or concerning how to inform those that want to ship into the EU, to create a situation where everything finally is clear for those that ship into the EU, and that they can cope with the upcoming changes. What are your views on that? How does that impact the e-commerce, the cross-border e-commerce business?
I can go real quick. We already charge, the taxes, which is most commonly gets, that de minimis. Duties is rare that most e-commerce small cost, but we already charge that, tax. It's already automatic. And when you estimate the cost for shipping or print a label, it gives you the shipping cost plus the cost for taxes and duties. Really, for us, the only change is going to be taking away the de minimis, and we'll just charge tax from the zero and up on all shipments.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our customers, merchants, we deal with merchants and that sort of thing. That's always a education, and many of them get used to it. And a lot of ways we kind of take away that, kind of abstract it out, and they're happy that it's just taken care of and they don't have to think about it, and it's just paid up front, and they know what the cost is.
Yeah. Paul, what is UPU's role in this?
Question, Mark. In terms of and customers, then that's probably an area that's more relevant for the posts themselves. As the UPU, we're really dealing with the interpostal communication and facilitation. So maybe Swiss Post or other posts on the call might have some views on that.
Yeah, well, I have another question here that just came up. Santosh Gopal, he wants to ask a question. Please take the floor. You can do so, of course.
Sure. This question was for Chad. So Chad, very good presentation. Thank you for sharing. And as far as I believe, today it's not just the cost structure which is changing bit on the VAT regulation, but it's also the process of informing and compliance with different regulators, right?
Right.
So do you have any solution? Because today people used to do manual filings or different types of filings if it's low cost item. Today every item has to be documented, and the merchant of record has to be maintained for 7 years. So are you focusing purely on shipping and leave the merchant with all the compliance for VAT calculations and money transfers with customs and all this stuff, or you play entire end-to-end?
No, so we deal with the customs. So the shipper or the client is not responsible for doing that, for paying. We pay the country or customs country there. We keep all those records. And I think this is something that I probably bring up and that we don't talk about much, but we've kind of built a very standardized system for the whole world, our own kind of internal, where we collect data for every country has their own systems, but we collect all that data up front from users, and sometimes they don't realize how much data they're giving us. It's not that it's a trick or we're deceiving them. It's just that we make it very easy to give us all the data needed to clear customs or take care of any regulations or all that. So a short answer is we take care of all that administrative and record keeping for the client, so they don't have to do anything. They just pay the taxes, for example, just as if they were paying for the shipping. To them, that's how the process looks. They pay for the shipping and they pay for the taxes, and they're done.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Chad, for the answer to the question. Do we have other questions? Patrick, Swiss Post is of course a very developed post. I mean, there are, between all the different posts around the world, there are different challenges when it comes to e-commerce, in particular cross-border questions. But if you look at your situation, I mean, you have a very neat solution there, but what would you consider for a post like Swiss Post? What's the biggest challenge for you for cross-border shipments, returns, for the whole cross-border e-commerce area? Are you still there, Patrick? Or maybe not. Maybe somebody else can answer that question then. Paul, if you look at the post that you're dealing with, I mean, you're advising them, you're providing them with tools. Your experience, what are the things most of them are looking for? What are the pain points, the main ones, where they need help?
Well, the UPU, and you're probably all familiar on this call about the importance of our EAD project. Advanced data is one of the big things that we have at the UPU at the moment. Then customs border processors will need advanced electronic data. And so this is our big focus within the UPU, is to provide support to all postal operators to be able to collect the data and exchange the data across border, and also exchange the data with the other border agencies who are looking for this data. This is one of the critical
Thanks, Paul. This was the kind of question.
As has been discussed before, and related to Mark's question. And yeah, the operators are working with the UPU to implement our customs declaration system, which is supporting that paperless trade project.
Okay, let me ask a further question that I've just received. Just a second. Do you provide any opportunities for small shippers to share capacity and save money? A sort of Uber pool of cross-border shipping and returns. This is from Paola of USPS, Paola Visionary, and it's directed towards Chad and Patrick. Do you have a view on that?
Yes, I mean, in some ways we do kind of do consolidate from small shippers to deliver cross-border. You know, I think somewhat, you know, this was kind of focused a little bit on just more businesses or postal or freight forwarders or people in the logistics industry, how they can set up their own trade lanes. But part of that is we provide shipping direct to the merchants and with small merchants. So in effect, we are already doing that. So some of our more popular lanes, we ship from China and Hong Kong outbound to the U.S., Europe. That's probably their busiest trade lane, into Australia. But we do outbound from the U.S. and other countries. And I think I touched on this, is that we can really launch from about any origin pretty quickly to any destination we've already set up with customs and last mile. But you know, we can add more. But yeah, that's really kind of what we are, is we kind of position this technology where small shippers can consolidate their shipments together and make it cost feasible for all of them to do everything. So yeah, and quite honestly, we're in discussion. It happens all the time. There's some new origins, you know, like out of Thailand. We're talking to merchants and creating, you know, a trade lane out of there to the U.S. With their own shipping channel.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Chad, for answering that question. The time is over. We had 1 hour of discussion and presentations, and we want to keep the time. I know that many of you have really this 1 hour slot, and of course we can continue for half an hour more with the discussion. Next time we meet again in about 3 weeks. Then we are talking about building the future post by digital transformation is the new business imperative for posts. And then 3 weeks after that, we are going to talk about a topic that's really very interesting and very becoming increasingly important at circular economy on 17th of November, that is. We don't have the dates yet, but we have more or less already the time. We are going to organize our startup competition. Some of you might know it anyway. Usually during Parcel and Post Expo, we organize a live startup competition. This year, of course, it's not possible since there is no Postal and Post Expo live or conference, which would have taken place in Vienna. Everything is going online now, and we have decided that the competition, a good timing would be the second half of January, and that's what we are focusing on. So we'll keep you updated with regard to that, but second half of January, anyway, there will be our PIP and Swiss Post competition, which we'll organize in cooperation with Postal and Post Expo. Again, thank you very much to everybody who joined us today for this online executive forum. Thank you very much to the three speakers who provided really a lot of insights and their experiences, use cases of how they are dealing with the challenges of cross-border commerce. Again, as I said in the beginning, the content will be made public. We'll publish the webinar on YouTube, so everybody who joined and registered for today's event will get an email from me with the link, and you can rewatch the presentations and today's webinar. So again, thank you very much to everybody. I hope you found it interesting and valuable, and join us again in 3 weeks when we talk about building the future post. Thank you very much again. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.